to learn other characters and now start to learn. Yeah. But there's a lot of unique characters that I'm like,
What's going on, everybody? This is Mike from Fight Your Rival, and I'm hanging out with Dylan, the program coordinator at the NYU Game Center. How you doing, man?
I'm doing really good. We're finally up and running, and everything's going well, so I'm a happy man.
Very awesome. So for the people that don't know about the NYU Game Center, could you talk about the Game Center's history and how you ended up getting involved?
Sure. So the NYU Game Center is a game design department at NYU. We have a master's in game design, and we're pretty soon to have an undergraduate degree in game design as well. And as part of our approach, we're really interested in looking at games as something that's sort of wider than just AAA or wider than storytelling. We want to embrace kind of like all the things about games that we think are fascinating. So from regular sports to Street Fighter, for instance. So part of our mission is to bring you guys out and to see what it's like to study games in this environment. So that's what we're doing here.
Awesome. And now this is the 4th year, Spring Fighter.
4th year.
Can you kind of talk about the growth of the event from year 1 to right now?
Sure. So the first year was just like a NYU college tournament, to be honest. It was like maybe 20 guys and girls, actually. And then, you know, I don't know exactly how Spooky heard about us, but somehow word got out that we had this tournament going on, and the second year they just came in and volunteered to help run the stream. So that was awesome, and then Capcom heard about us, and Seth Killian is sort of is friends with some of our faculty too, so that whole connection started to happen, and then now we're here in the 4th year, and Capcom talked to Mad Cats, and Seth talked to us more, and we talked to Evo, and so now we're all kind of buddying up. So it really kind of.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I mean, I was at Spring Fighter last year, and I had a great time, and it's crazy to see how it went from kind of a tournament to this feels like almost a mini convention.
Yeah, I mean, so far this is going well. I think one of our plans in the future is to have a regional or a nationals for Evo too, so nothing definite yet, but we got our eyes on a venue here at NYU, so hopefully we can kind of try to make that happen for next year.
That'd be very exciting. No, you know, the fighting game community, we definitely need more love on the East Coast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's tough. New York's expensive, you know. So like one of the things that it's cool for being a part of NYU is that NYU is really supportive of what we're doing and of games, and they're behind it all the way. And so we get to do weird stuff like take over a lecture hall and have Daigo talk about it. I think which is just really like actually today the NYU official Twitter account tweeted at Daigo. Like that's just
that's amazing,
right? That's just super weird. So so we're super excited about it.
Yeah, and you know, while we're talking about Daigo, obviously he's the reason a lot of people are here today. Can you recall personally, kind of the first time you heard about him, and just kind of the huge persona that he is in the fighting game community?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I guess it's the famous video. I mean, it's funny. It's like I think that's how a lot of people start with it. But it's like if you like games, you've been around for a while, and someone's like, oh yeah, check this guy out, it's nuts, and then you just kind of go from there. So that video is that's done a lot to spread his name around, I think.
Yeah, it's funny because that video is the video I show to my friends that are like, oh, fighting games aren't skill based,
right.
They're just button mashers, and that's really one of the prime examples of just like the intense, you know, level of just skill and mind games.
And the funny thing is that it's not even like you really have to have a pretty decent amount of literacy to understand what's going on there, but there's something about the crowd and the way it's filmed and the kind of just the movement of the blocking that just makes sense to people that even that don't get fighting games. It just something a little special happened there, and he's definitely moved from there.
Right. Now, are you a fighting gamer yourself?
Casual. I'm not very good at it. Before the second Spring Fighter, I was like, all right, if we're gonna run this thing, I gotta know what's going on. So I brought home some fighting sticks, and I lived with a couple guys, and so for a whole weekend we just like played Street Fighter, we played Marvel, we just like went to town and like got fundamentals. So now I can kind of like I can do it enough where I know what's going on, but I can't hold these guys. It's a different game, it's a different crowd.
Now, do you have a favorite game, favorite character?
I would say Street Fighter and Cammy. That's what I got decent at, so I'll stick with that.
Well, you definitely picked the right character, so you're good in that sense. You know, you said before just about kind of the magic of that video and how even if you're not into fighting games, now you guys study games as art. How would you kind of relate Street Fighter to other forms of art?
That's an interesting question. I mean, we were actually just yesterday or the other day, we're working on a new class it's a play lab class. So the idea is that To be a good game designer, you have to be able to kind of go deep into certain games and know what it's like to kind of look at a game and understand what's interesting about it, but then kind of dive down from there and really kind of mine what's interesting. So we're trying to propose a class to NYU, which is sort of a brand new idea, which is that it's not about readings necessarily. It's not about talking. The core component of the class is playing the game, and that's the learning that you're doing. So we're kind of trying to figure out what's the analog that we can use to explain to people what it means to play deeply. So it's a work in progress. I mean, I think part of it is something like music. You know, like you go and you do fine art and you play the drums, and you go in the studio and you play drums all day and you get good at it. And we've all decided that being good at the drums or the oboe is something that's worth doing, and just doing it for its own sake is art and beautiful and all that. So I think on one level, I think we want to encourage that. But on the second, I think it's also about what it can do for the people that are playing too, and the kind of the community and the effects of determination and skill and all the stuff that kind of comes out of it are two of the things that we're particularly interested in. And Street Fighter and the fighting game community is a kind of perfect example of what it looks like when a bunch of guys get together and play a game super deeply, and the awesome stuff that can come out of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As a musician myself, I always make that comparison of just the practice, the payoff, and just kind of just the art of improvising. Even it's all kind of in there, so
right,
it's very cool.
Yeah, and then part of us being here at the university, which is kind of neat, is that there's some kind of gravitas that this lends to it. That we can be here and do this, and so part of our mission is just to take these things and put them in this context. And just by doing it, people kind of stand up and listen and say, wait, what? NYU is hosting a fighting game tournament? Well, then maybe it's worth me checking out. And you can kind of bridge people through that, which I think is super useful.
Very awesome. And kind of branching off to just general gaming, is there anything that you've played or seen lately that kind of exemplifies that video games as art?
Well, I just came back from GDC, the Game Developers Conference, and that place is just full of good examples. There's a guy named Jason Rohrer that I would encourage everyone to check out. He's a one-man studio. He makes his own stuff. One of the challenges at GDC was to make a game. What was it called? It was the last game of humanity, and so 10 game designers had to make a game for that. And so he designed a board game. He etched it into titanium, and he buried it in the desert in Nevada somewhere, and deleted the coordinates. But he handed out all the potential coordinates. There's a little more complicated this to the people in the room, and the idea was that if you built a cathedral, right, like 500 years ago, you built a cathedral, and when you first dig it up, you have no sense of what that's going to be like. You're never going to be able to experience it yourself. But now we build like the Burj Dubai, and we can build it in 6 years. And so he wanted to make a game that no one today could play, and no one would be able to experience, but in 2,000 years we could experience it. So it's just a weird tiny facet of games that's a particular kind of interesting statement and a little bit of beauty that I think is totally outside of what people usually expect from games.
It's very cool. It's a very futuristic idea.
It's really weird, and the thing is, it's like huge. It's 35 pounds. It's all he took the other thing too is he wanted to. The rules you can't just write like player does this, player does that, because he was saying, well, maybe we won't even use numbers or language, and so he made all these intricate sort of hieroglyphic style rules, and he put them in a sealed tube, and he cast the tube in titanium. It's a whole project. Jason Rohrer, it's worth checking out.
Very cool. I hope we're alive for the day that it gets discovered.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, his idea was that no one will find it, right, in 2,000 years. But then like immediately after the talk, someone bought the domain and like was challenging people to go out and find it. So, I mean, gamers, like when you give them a challenge, they're gonna just try to dive into it. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone puts it in the back of a pickup truck and drives it somewhere. So we'll see.
Gamers can be obsessive. So. So before we leave off here, just any other things you want people to know about the Game Center and what you guys do?
Sure. I mean, we're beyond just the fighting games. I mean, we have tons of events. We have all kinds of stuff that's always going on. I mean, part of the way that we're excited and that we share our excitement is by opening the doors and making sure that we're public for nearly all of our events. So our website is gamecenter.nyu.edu. We're on Twitter and Tumblr and Facebook and all that stuff, and so I'd encourage anyone that's around in New York City to come out and check out some of our events. We got something called No Quarter coming up in 2 weeks, which is an exhibition of indie games. So we commission games for a public setting. and then we kind of debut them like a gallery style. And there's some really cool stuff that's coming out of that. And there's food and drinks, and it's sort of a big old celebration. So if you're around the neighborhood, I think it's the first Friday in May. But check our website out; all the information's up there.
Very cool. Definitely looking forward to that. And just any last shout outs you want to give?
Nah, I think I'm good. You know, thanks to NYU, because this is awesome. This is I'm really excited. And sometimes we're not appreciative of how supportive they are for this. But this is we're excited to be doing this.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Cool.
Shout outs to Dylan and the NYU Game Center. There's a special event that I'm really glad we get to be a part of. And definitely looking forward to the Daigo panel.
Cool.
And everything else you guys got. So this is Mike from Fight Your Rival. And remember, guys, keep fighting.